Just in time for What's Hot. This is where we talk about the stories that have everybody talking.
And we are joined by Tracy Johnson from Tempo, Milwaukee. Plus, Jeff Wagner is back with us. Hundreds of school districts and businesses are closed today because of the dangerous cold weather we've experienced. This is the coldest weather we have seen since February of 1996. The question is, should businesses have closed today because of the cold?
Well, I mean, it depends on what the business is. I understand why roofers aren't out on days like today. I understand why people who work outside aren't out. But at the same time, other than that, it seems to me it's a regular day. I don't know why government offices would close, for example. I mean, you get there, you're all set.
And government offices would close. You look at the majority of their workforce, they're taking public transportation, they're standing outside, they're walking to their offices. And I think the businesses that are closing are saying, okay, it probably is a little less expensive for us to close for the day than to deal with the ramifications of all these people being sick. That's the way that I look at it.
I'm sorry, I get schools because you got the kids that have to stay outside at bus stops. You're saying you think the majority of government workers are taking buses? What government business building have you been around?
I don't know. I mean, downtown you see a lot of the workers perhaps. I mean, when they think about it, I would think it'd be more difficult to let some people have off and not others within government. You talk about Roundy's are closing a little bit early. What they're looking at, I think, is the safety of their employees trying to get home. Taking public transportation.
Well, but I think it's something else, though. I think it's also just the business decision they're making, recognizing, look, as soon as I go home tonight, I'm not going out again. So, I mean, I just don't think they figure there's going to be a lot of people shopping after 8 o'clock at night, and they're probably right there.
I know of a rather large employer here in the area that Friday night sent an email out to all the employees saying sick days, unless accompanied by a doctor's note, will not be accepted for an absence on Monday. You either have to use a vacation day, a personal day, or something else. Here are all these different things you can do to prepare yourself. Come on in. We're going to be open and we expect you at your desk.
Yeah, I was with a friend who also owns a business, and he was getting calls all weekend long. Are we going to be open? Are we staying open? Are we shutting?
Microphones frying bacon around here.
Well, the other question, though, is, like you said, you have a station, you have, I should say, a business that says you've got to use a PTO day or you've got to use a vacation day if you're going to call out on Monday. But what about the businesses that close and you don't have a PTO day to take? So is the employee then out of luck?
All right, we're going to wrap it up there and figure out that microphone situation for everybody at home. Coming up next, we reveal the viewer's choice topic.
And our viewer's choice. Topic of the day.
Again, we're joined by Tracy Johnson and Mr. Jeff Wagner from 620 WTMJ. Okay, the topic you, the viewers, have chosen: a not-profit in New York providing free plastic surgery to low-income kids who have facial deformities. Many of the kids are being bullied because of their looks. Is plastic surgery, though, the real answer?
I've watched this footage, and it is one of the most disturbing pieces I have ever seen. Somebody with a big nose, a small chin, I don't think those are deformities. And I think that you're completely missing the point if you're trying to build a child's self-confidence so that they can handle situations in the future. If you're just going and giving them plastic surgery, I think that is a total miss.
Well, I agree to the extent that it's kind of victimizing the victim. I mean, here you say, okay, this is the way you're going to deal with bullying. If you're being bullied because you've got a big nose, we're going to take the big nose away, and that'll solve the problem. I guess I agree to that extent. And I also agree with you, Tracy, that these aren't deformities in that type of sense. Now, having said that, at the same time, I think, you know, there's a lot of kids, their self-esteem, rightly or wrongly, is tied up in their appearance. And so if the purpose here is to try to help improve their self-esteem or something, I'm not sure I have a problem with that. To deal with bullying, I think that's where the issue comes in.
I think you invest your dollars more effectively. I think these parents are trying to do anything that they can, and I think this is the lowest common denominator. Let's just change their looks. I mean, these kids, they've pulled these kids out of school. They've put them in counseling. I do not think this is a last resort. I think it's as quickly as you can develop a big nose, you're going to grow right out of it. Think of all of these people growing up. I mean, I had an eye patch, no front teeth. I mean, you grow out of these things.
Right. And it's a quick fix. It's really a quick fix.
I want to see pictures of this.
An eye patch and no front teeth.
But you know what the other thing is that they're not dealing with the real issue, which is the core themselves.
The bullying.
And the bullying.
Well, the bullying, but themselves, of having that self-confidence and feeling good about themselves. You can put a new nose on, but if you still don't feel good about yourself, it really doesn't matter.
All right, lightning round time now.
All right, self-proclaimed tiger mom Amy Chow and her husband say that some groups are better than others. This is a good one.
They say Jewish, Indian, and Chinese, just to name a few, have qualities that generates wealth and power. Just going back to the same old stereotypes all over again.
Well, they're not really stereotypes, and she's really trying to make the point that this is based on statistical evidence. And she's also stating that this is about culture. And I think what we're missing here is the opportunity to look at the good cultural habits of parenting and what makes people successful, because we're so afraid of these racial stereotypes.
Well, and I agree to that extent, because look, it's always tough to generalize. So, I mean, and there's always exceptions. But, I mean, there are cultural situations. Look at, for example, Asian kids. At UW-Madison, Asian kids aren't considered to be a minority for enrollment purposes because they tend to overachieve or achieve very well academically. So you don't need to have some of these preferences that get built in. I mean, I do think the reality is in some cultures, as a general rule, for example, traits like education are more valued, and that does kind of play out statistically.
Well, and the point too that's made in this writing is that at some point we won't be necessarily looking at these cultures for their success. We'll be looking at individuals for the success, as America is this melting pot. Right. So someday we probably won't be talking about these as
right. But it is always dangerous to deal with stereotypes, and I think that's where this kind of becomes, okay, is there a stereotype of the typical, a Jewish child, or is there a stereotype of the typical Asian child, or whatever?
If you or I made one of those cracks on the air, we might be in trouble.
You'd be off the air. Well, that does it for our hot discussion. It always continues online. You can find that on our webpage at tmj4.com/hot.